Hi there once again. Thanks so much for being a part of Leading Edge this week. I'm your host, Jeff Smith. A question I put out there today, so now what? That is the question that's echoing through the streets of Maumee after months of mounting frustration boiled over. A group of concerned residents, fed up with soaring water bills, costly sewer mandates, and what they called a toxic climate at City Hall, tried to force change through a recall effort. But the Ohio Supreme Court shut it down. Then, in a surprising twist, two key city leaders suddenly stepped aside. One announced his retirement, another resigned. Is it the result of citizen pressure or something else? We're digging into that fallout today and what might come next for the city of Maumee. A number of civically inclined Maumee residents decided enough was enough, and they no longer wanted an administration forcing them into all of this change. Chelsea Ziss is joining us here today. She has been a part of this action committee. Thanks for being a part of this. I know the last few weeks have been interesting, to say the least.
Oh, definitely. It's been a lot of things all in a row, all at once. First, with the recall being overturned, which we always knew could be an issue, but it came down right when we were having our candidate forum for our general candidates. And then almost the next day, we had a council member resign, and then 2 days later, we had our administrator saying he was going to retire. So there's been a lot of upheaval, and it hasn't stopped.
What got us to this point? Because I know when I arrived at WTOL in 2020, we just received note after note from concerned residents about their astronomical water bills. We covered those stories. That was something that was heavily laid on the administration at the time. Then we talk about mandates as far as property owners are concerned. And you go even further back to the problems with sewage runoff into the Maumee River. So I guess the angst that built up for you, lifelong Maumee resident, and others like you. In fact, I wanted to print out a number of stuff. There is no shortage of material online as far as people who were just fed up and had their say. So how did we get here?
Well, I think a big part of the problem was that there was so much change so fast. Obviously, a lot of it was accelerated because of things like COVID, because of having a new administration. And what you have to realize is that when 2020 came and we got our new administrator, we also, in the next couple of years, also had an entirely new council. We've had an almost entirely new director of finance. We've had a new director of law. So many, even our municipal clerk has only been there for a few years. So you have that amount of leadership changeover.
But keep in mind, and we've got to point this out, administrator brought in by administration. However, council people are voted in. So that is the people of Maumee bringing in, they go to the ballot box, they make those decisions.
Yeah. You know, I think previously to the last maybe couple of years, not a whole lot of people were paying attention. You can see this if you go back and you watch some of the old council videos, you can see there's maybe 2 or 3 people showing up to council meetings.
Not so anymore.
No, now it's standing room only.
Yeah.
Which is pretty incredible when you think about it. When there are 70 to 80 seats and that people are sitting and standing in the hallways or sometimes even lining up outside of the council building, during the executive sessions or when there are pauses, you can hear citizens debating different parts of different ordinances, which is something I've never experienced in my whole life being here.
Civically engaged. They are absolutely reading into it. I stopped you mid-calendar, I guess, as we were going back. You were talking about 2020 and then moving forward, but I'm still looking for that spark, that thing that fired everybody up. What was the straw that broke the camel's back?
I think you could go back to when the rental ordinance started. So that was sort of the first, I would say, slow burn. That's when the fuse was lit. I wasn't paying as close of attention then. I think a lot of people weren't, but a lot of people started noticing that there was very little communication coming from City Hall, and that one of the things that I've said a lot is that questions are seen as disagreement and any real disagreement is seen as dissent. So if you don't agree with how things are going, or if you don't understand or ask questions, you are now on the other side of the fence. So people who would have, and sometimes still are, in line with the thinking at City Hall and with the goals that the city has, the minute that you ask a question, you are now a public enemy. And that is a really tough thing. So it pushes people together who would not normally have come together in this climate.
So you're either with us or you're against us.
Absolutely.
That was the mentality. Stay right there. When we come back, we're talking a little bit about how we got to this point, but we want to dive into what could happen next for the city of Maumee. As Chelsea mentioned, the loss of one city administrator, the loss of one city council member. Stay with us here on Leading Edge. Welcome back here on Leading Edge. Once again, talking with Chelsea Ziss. She has been at the forefront of, I guess, the effort in the city of Maumee to call for change over the last few months. I was asking you, and we talked about it, the Ohio Supreme Court coming back and saying the recall effort that you guys were pushing for to get a movement as far as the members on council, the mayor, get him removed, Jim McDonald. But you initially, you said you were against that recall. What changed your mind to say now I'm running for mayor?
Well, a big part of it was the people. You know, as a member of the Citizens of Maumee Action Committee, on a regular basis, one or two times a month, I'm up there with a microphone in front of hundreds of people on a pretty regular basis, and them coming up.
So you were the alpha.
Well, I wouldn't necessarily say that. I think that I was the voice. I ended up being the mouthpiece a little bit. And I think a big part of it was that a lot of people who were involved in CMAQ were not necessarily for the recall, but they could see it coming and they still wanted to change. When there was little movement from the city and they weren't producing the sort of change or even asking the questions that we wanted them to ask, they knew that they wanted somebody in there who was a little more judicious, who wasn't going to come out and scream and yell and be a tyrant. Not that that's what was happening, but with the recall, we don't exactly know what people are going to do.
But we can go back to stories. I remember having people tell us, as far as, and this is going back to the water bill issue, people were going into City Hall, they were being met with just disdain. They weren't being treated with respect, they said at the time. But I don't want to gunny sack all that. I want to move forward back to where we are at this point. And I said we were going to kind of link you with the Action Committee first, but then also talk about what's ahead and what's next. And you said you still have, even though this recall isn't happening, the Supreme Court said no, the Board of Elections can't go forward with it. You still have aspirations to be a council member, and there is a seat open.
Yes. I'm also running in the general, but there is a seat open right now. After all of this happened, we did have a council member resign, it's kind of out of nowhere, which was very interesting. But now
is this? Let me stop you there.
Go ahead.
Was this cause effect? Do you and your group see it as cause effect? This is like we win because we did this, or is it just? Did it just happen?
No, you know, I think there was so much pressure from all sides. There was CMAQ, there was recall, there are things from the EPA, there's the greater regional communities all paying very close attention to Maumee right now. Everyone is under a microscope in a way that just doesn't happen in a small town like Maumee. So,
but you've told me you don't fault Patrick Birch for a lot of the things that he has done.
No, I don't. In fact, I think we agree on a lot of things. Yeah. I think in different times and under different circumstances, he could have been an incredible city administrator. I think that the lack of checks and balances in the city and created by the city council over the past several years, not just our current council, that it really just chipped away at those checks and balances. A city administrator's job is to bring in economic development, to bring in new businesses. But the city council's job and the mayor's job is to represent the citizens and the citizens' voices. And when you don't have somebody who's saying, hey, what about the citizens? Then the only thing that is going forward is that one part of that vision. That's why those checks and balances are so important, and that's why we have elected officials to begin with. Your
name is in the general election. What were the rest of the CMAQ candidates? Was that a dog and pony show, or are they legitimate potential politicians who want to move forward and see change happen again in the city of Maumee?
I think definitely they are still interested. Everybody submitted for the general. I was a latecomer to the recall. I did submit for the general first, and so did almost everyone who was planning on running in the recall. And it wasn't necessarily just CMAQ people. We also had people outside of that who were just a part of the recall. But what it really is, you know, we talk about recall, we talk about CMAQ, we talk about Unite Maumee, we talk about the city, but what it really comes down to is, are you pro-change or are you anti-change? And all of the pro-change people sort of came together, and that's recall, that's CMAQ. Those are all the people who are upset and want answers. we've been talking about the water bills a lot.
Yeah.
The water bills might be right. The problem is that they've never taken the time to explain it. We've asked for it. We've even done public records requests. How did you come about this? How did you decide REUs? Have you done a rate study like most of the communities around us?
Yeah.
And the answer is no.
But they would argue they have.
What they have told us
Yeah.
is that they did an internal rate study, but they don't give us the calculations. They don't
Right.
tell us how that comes about. Whereas you look at some of the other places, like Berrysburg has a full PowerPoint presentation from a third-party company that goes through and looks at how their rates are structured when you talk about increasing or decreasing block rates.
So we've heard over the last couple of weeks and months that there is investment coming to the city of Maumee. There are big projects. In fact, in his outgoing interview that he did with our Steve Iwanek, Patrick Birch said that there are big things coming. You still think there's change needed, even though there are sunnier days ahead?
Oh, absolutely. And here's the problem with that is we get told that a lot. In almost every council meeting that you watch or all of the interviews that come out, they say, you just wait, there's $500 million being invested in Maumee. And then there's no report, there's no information. There's no studies on the return on investment. There's no traffic studies. There's no information about it. If you do find out about any of those projects, it's at the last minute at a special council meeting with no questions allowed and all the decisions being made behind closed doors.
What's next for you in your campaign?
What's next for me in my campaign is the same thing that I've been doing for the last year, which is going out, talking to the citizens, learning everything that I can learn, and trying to make the best decisions and choices that I can.
Chelsea, good conversation. We appreciate you coming into Leading Edge.
Thank you so much.
You bet. Stay right there. When we come back, a local tech leader sharing the vision for Toledo's and Northwest Ohio's digital tomorrow. Welcome back here on Leading Edge. When you think of booming tech hubs, Silicon Valley or Austin might come to mind, but leaders here in Toledo, Northwest Ohio, they've got a bold vision to grow Northwest Ohio's tech ecosystem by tenfold, maybe even more. It's an ambitious push to bring more innovation, more startups, and more high-paying jobs to this region. So what does it take to transform a manufacturing legacy into a digital future? Well, today we take you inside the movement that is trying to put Toledo on the tech map. Tom Bush joining me. He's part of EmpoweredAI. Good to have you. Nice to meet you. Thanks for coming into Leading Edge.
Yeah, man, thanks for having us. We are having a great time here in Northwest Ohio, really growing the tech ecosystem. At the core of that is something we call augmented intelligence, which has the same acronym as artificial intelligence.
Explain that.
Yeah, so we are passionate about using artificial intelligence in a way that superpowers humans. And we see that Northwest Ohio has an opportunity to really grab onto that and help us grow our workforce and give people opportunities that they didn't know that they had these opportunities available to them.
There's hesitation in all circles to, I guess, embracing AI. We have it here.
Yep.
Our company that owns us has told us, here are the tools that you have at your disposal which can help your job, so on and so forth. And there's a little bit of trepidation, there's a little bit of hesitation. How do you get Northwest Ohio over that threshold to let them know this is the future, this is the wave of the future, and it can help?
Yeah, it comes with you really demystifying and reducing that fear. So we've been working with community leaders and, for example, Imagination Station. We're working with them on installing a payphone that kids will be able to pick up and ask AI anything. And that is a way to not only help the children experience AI and get familiar with it, but also to demystify it for the parents who are somewhat apprehensive. Every education moment that we have, we work through the ethical use and the proper use of AI, and ensuring that people know how to use it, when to use it, and most importantly, we're focused on helping people understand that using it to empower yourself is smart. It's not sneaky. It's like it is the right thing to do.
We talk about, increasing our foothold as far as this industry is concerned, making this a tech hub, if you will. But how do you get folks, if the culture is what it is in Northwest Ohio, how do you get them to take that leap of faith and say that there is future in this industry and I can jump here and I can make a career?
Yeah, one of the things that we've been focused on, first I want to say, Northwest Ohio has been the most welcoming tech community that I have experienced across the U.S.
What was your background? Let me get into that first. How did you get into it, and why are you the one leading the charge?
Great question. Why am I the guy? So 15 years I was with GE Aviation. So I started I grew up in just over the border here in Tecumseh, Michigan.
Okay.
And that was a great upbringing in technology. I started as a 12-year-old in the Toledo Public Library in the basement running computer labs, teaching old ladies how to use computers. It was great. And I ended up over on the west side when I graduated from college at Grand Rapids, Michigan, at GE. And that was a fantastic experience learning how to make computers that fly airplanes. At that time, a lot of my success in career came from web development as well. And
so was this hands-on learning? You have an engineering degree?
I did get a computer science degree, yep. And so that did open doors for me, but I always had this vision of having people who didn't have tech degrees able to make money in the tech field. And so even then I was working at ITT Tech, which is a private education situation.
I'm sure viewers have heard the commercials.
Yeah, absolutely. They don't exist anymore, I don't think. But what I loved about it was I knew when I taught HTML and web programming to these individuals that they could immediately go out and make money with that skill. And what I have discovered with AI here is that AI is that on steroids. Being able to empower someone with a tool like ChatGPT where they can have an idea, explore that idea interactively with something that can reflect back really great insights and ideas, that's the empowerment that we've been really working with. We've worked with United Way and Cherry Street Mission to introduce an AI-infused project management class, where we're helping individuals who maybe don't have a bachelor's degree accelerate their learning into project management, which is awesome because project management is one of those skills that can go anywhere. It can go into construction, it goes into manufacturing, goes into tech. And so we feel that this is a great entry point for us to help individuals both experience AI and get a certification that increases their opportunity.
You guys have been having these tech nights at TolHouse, just down the street from our studios here at Cherry and Summit. Talk about the response, talk about the turnout, and is it everybody who's already in the know who's showing up to these things? Are there curious Joes and Janes who are showing up?
Yeah, shout out to Will Lucas at the TolHouse. When I say Northwest Ohio is the most welcoming tech community, all we had to do was say, hey, we're looking for a place to bring tech together for a social. Like we needed, if we want to look like other places where tech is happening, like you need a spot where people come together.
Yeah.
And Will
But when you say bring tech together, for all of our viewers out there to wrap their minds around how much exists, how much tech exists in Northwest Ohio right
great.
now?
When I first started my journey to try to 10x Toledo's tech ecosystem, I got this question all the time. And what was interesting to find out is we have a lot of tech happening, especially software-oriented tech. But strangely enough, those companies are helping companies outside of Northwest Ohio. So we don't talk about them very often because we're not utilizing them locally.
But these are good paying jobs that exist right now, because obviously that's been the bugaboo about Northwest Ohio is the salaries are not rising to the occasion of those cities we compete with.
Well, I will say for tech, Northwest Ohio has an opportunity to be a low-cost region, and so that does repress the salaries in tech a little bit.
Yeah.
But I was really impressed when I went out to Bowling Green State University and talked to their students. I was sharing a story about, they asked me to come talk about software development in the age of AI. And I kind of read between the lines there. They were asking me, why am I going into computer science if AI can write all this code?
Yeah.
And I asked them a simple question, and this is when people are worried about AI, this is what I would ask them. Why did you go into that? What was your purpose? What was your why? And when I talked to these students, half of them responded back, and all of them had a flavor of, I wanted to build something. I wanted to create a game. I wanted to solve some sort of problem. And I said, well, if AI is writing the code for you, and you can solve that problem faster, you can build faster, did you lose your why? And the reality is, no, the why is the same.
Yeah.
And so the reason we're so excited about using augmented intelligence AI to help bolster humans is because we see it open these doors for everybody to, A, be more productive and being more open to taking jobs that could pay more. And so we do see it as a pathway to higher wages.
We got about 2 minutes left. Does AI make you a better employee? Does AI make you less of a wanted employee?
AI makes you a better employee. And what we often talk to companies about when they're saying, hey, our employees are scared that AI is going to take away their job, we say, well, generally companies are trying to grow. And so the mantra that we help people embrace is, how do you help your company grow without growing your headcount? Yeah. It's individuals that we already have that we can make them do more productive things. And it's often funny when we're doing these big digital changes for enterprises with my for-profit company called Actual Reality Technologies, we are often working through helping people embrace the change through the concept of, well, my why I'm employed to do this job is not to move a spreadsheet from here to there. They start to identify themselves as that, but that's not the true purpose. The why they're there is really moving up that Maslow hierarchy of needs, thinking of higher outcomes. Sorry, I'm getting a little
you're good. You're good. 30 seconds left. I want to talk about, we're sitting here in August. We've got an event coming up with BGSU in November.
Yeah, so we've been growing that tech ecosystem. If you go out to toledo.directory or tolder.com, you're going to see all of those software-oriented companies. And what's happening the first week of November, November 4, 5, and 6 at Bowling Green, we're hosting the largest AI conference in the Midwest. And,
calling it Great Lakes AI Week.
Yes, thank you. GreatLakesAIweek.com. You'll be able to get out there and see the details about that. And we're really excited about this because not only will it bring attention to here, but the news stories we want emerging from this is, why is all of this happening in Northwest Ohio? What is going on? Yeah. And it's going to showcase a lot of the work and the talent that both the universities have been working on and that our people have been working on.
You just gave me homework for November. Tom, good to see you.
Yeah, man. Thank you.
Appreciate it. We'll be back right after this. Welcome back. If you want to reach the show with comments, ideas, suggestions, it's easy. Just send an email. It's leadingedge, all one word, at WTOL.com. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm Jeff Smith. Until next time, listen, learn, and lead.